joining this wonderful session that we have been running throughout the last month now of FAB Does Not Wait Global Talks. Last week we had a super interesting panel with the European Network where they discussed about the future and what could be possible based on this crisis that we have been living over the last couple of months, and how the maker movement and the fabber movement have been like organizing themselves to think forward. Today we have an incredible panel. They are all from Africa. And for that, we have Felicity that will introduce us to this wonderful panelist. Felicity?
Thank you, Norella. Am I audible? Oh, okay. So to introduce our session, my name is Felicity. I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, and I'd love to introduce our wonderful panelists. First on the line, there is Martin Oloo from FAB Global. That is in the western part of Kenya. That is in a place called Kisumu. I think he'll talk a little bit about that. We have Neville Govender. He's from South Africa, Johannesburg. He's been in the FAB network for the longest period of time and has been starting networks of FAB labs in South Africa. I would love to hear a lot from you, Neville. We have Maurice Cashinco from Kumasi Hive in Ghana, that is in West Africa. And we will be glad to hear from you, Maurice. Maybe we can say hello. You probably give us more insights on what's happening in the western part of Africa. You probably know what's going on also in Sierra Leone and a bit on Nigeria. Then we also have Lambert Rulindana from Rwanda. East Africa is very well represented, and they're doing very amazing. They're doing very amazing projects in Rwanda, and we're looking forward to hear about the ventilator project. We also have Ephantus Ngugi from Gearbox. There's also a lot of interesting, hi Ngugi. There's a lot of interesting projects they're doing in that space, and we'd love to hear about that. And the one panelist that has not yet made it, and we hope will make it, is Markos Lemma, who is the co-founder of Ice Addis from Ethiopia. So without further ado, I'd like to call up Martin to give us a bit of a background on FAB Global. Where are you so far? What kind of projects are you working on? And how is COVID, how are you tackling the COVID problem?
Thank you so much, Felicity. First of all, I'm so glad to be here and I'm safe so far. Yeah, so I'm Martin Oloo, founder of FAB Global. We are based in the western part of Kenya. Actually, we are FAB Lab operating away from the capital city. And with that regard, I'm also one of the officials of the countrywide innovations hub. These are hubs which are not within the capital city. So FAB Lab has been very active. We never closed our doors when COVID came, because this is the time that we needed to be most active. And with that, we have been able to work on various projects. One of which is called M-Safari, which is a contact tracing application, which also includes cashless payment. So this is one of our dear projects which we built to be able to help in tracing individuals who are suspected to be having corona. Another project that we've worked on is automatic hand washing tap. So that is one of the projects which is currently, it has been done and it's just waiting to take into the market. And apart from that, we also have been doing face shields, though at a very low level, and that is also doing well. And I can also say that during this Corona period, we managed to host the Global Kids Day, which was very successful. We had kids joining from all over the world. We had kids from over 10 countries, and that was very good. Other than Fab Lab as a hub, we also participate in other activities with other hubs, and with countrywide hubs, we organize innovation challenge in collaboration with the government.
Hello, Martin.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, he's back.
Yeah, he's back. Okay,
You
we lost you
dropped
for
out
a minute.
Oh, okay. So I don't know where I left. Maybe you can tell me so that.
On the event that you held.
Yes. So countrywide innovation.
Yeah, we're losing his connection. Let's see if he comes back. If not, yeah, we lost him. So let's go with Neville. Sorry about that.
Neville?
Hi, Felicity. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Neville Govender from South Africa, and I'm responsible to manage 5 Fab Labs in Coronell, which is a small little city with about 3.5 million people. We use these labs to promote innovation amongst the disadvantaged communities. So basically, we run training programs showing kids, youth, how to use design software and how to make stuff. But during this COVID-19, I think we've been quite hard hit in the sense that because most of all our labs are owned by the government, all the labs have been closed. And I think we now past 100 days into lockdown. So all the labs still remain closed. As much as we had to suspend all the classes, we're not sure at the moment when the labs will open again. But what we've been doing in the beginning was that we were assisting the clinics. The city runs about 252 clinics. So what we did was we were trying to assist them in the initial stages when it was hard to get PPE. We started to make the protective shields. We 3D printed them and we started to hand them out to the clinics. But that I've been doing from my home. So I've brought the equipment home and started using it at home. But we're hoping that we will get back soon to the labs and open them soon. But as we went into the lockdown, we realized it was cheaper to actually start buying the shields rather than producing them at the lab. So in the initial stages, because they didn't have, it was hard to procure them or hard to get them because of the demand. It worked out quite well that we could use the labs to manufacture them. But now that we way into the lockdown, there are manufacturers that have specifically started to make these shields and supply them to the clinics. But yeah, overall, I think we've suspended everything, and we're just hoping that we will, most probably in a month or so, return to normal.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Neville. Are you finished?
Yeah, I think I'm done. Yeah, if there's anything else. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. We'll carry on to Maurice Cashinco from Kumasi Hive.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. So, hi again. My name is Maurice from Kumasi Hive. We are also another Fab Lab, but we like to call ourselves a makerspace. So we are a tech hub that we are focused in innovating and prototyping of ideas, providing support services for business people and people who are in the in the industrial seasons, people who want to build stuff to solve problems mainly. So that's where we find ourselves at Kumasi Hive. We've been operating since 2015 as a makerspace, also providing business support services for entrepreneurs as well. But we are famously known in our region for setting up the first makerspace or Fab Lab in Ghana. And our results have shown over the years that we can, prove to people that when you put your mind to something, you can get it done. So we've, in the past, have had startups building 3D printers from scratch from recyclable materials to build 3D printers that are currently being used, known as Clarks. We've supported businesses in hardware that have gone on to become globally recognized businesses like Dex Technology. And currently, we've had a few programs running since COVID struck. As all the other hubs as well, we also was hit by COVID, but we have decided to do something about it. So we run some programs online to sort of like give our beneficiaries a taste of what they can also do in-house to support innovation. We did that with our partners from GIZ and our partners from GTL. As a hub as well, we set up the maker spaces in 2 places. So we set up 2 maker spaces in Ghana, one at Impact Hub and then the other at the Ghana Tech Lab, where they currently are also running. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Hello?
lost audio a minute.
Hello?
We
Yes,
can
we
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Yeah, great. So yeah, so I'm saying that we've set up two maker spaces currently, and GTL and then Impact Hub. And during COVID-19, we've like our friend from who spoke at first, we also have produced the face shields that we sell in huge numbers. It's actually at a very lower rate because we also need money to make sure that the Fab Lab runs. So we sell it at a very low rate. But unfortunately for us, like the demand is really huge. We've also worked on the buckets, the automated hand washing machine that we're using currently. And we are running a program with our partners from GTL called the Makers Assemble during COVID-19, where we have GIZ funding for us to create solutions, innovative solutions from our maker spaces that will be used in the hospital. So like ventilators, and a few other things that we'll be running to ensure that people are getting the needed hardware to run to treat COVID-19 efficiently. So currently, those are the kind of things that we're working on. I think as we go on, I can give you more specific details on what Kumasi Hive is doing within the West African region in relation to COVID-19. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice, for that introduction. Let's have Lambert in the house.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I'm Lambert Rulindana, and I'm project manager in FAB Lab. So currently regarding to this COVID-19, I can say we are kind of lucky because like for us, we only had like lockdown for 2 days or 3 days, especially in the FAB Lab, while the whole country was on lockdown for 2 months and more, like 2 months and a half. So actually the reason why we had like 2 days lockdown, we're creating different solutions for this pandemic. We have created different face shields which are using for the medical purpose. So far we have delivered around 10,000 face shields within the whole country. So we also donated more than 3,000 face shields to the frontiers health workers. So a part of that, we have the other ongoing projects we already completed in the lab, but waiting for the approval. So we have the sanitizing tunnel. We already had done the prototype and everything. So now we're waiting for one FDA, like one Food and Drug Administration, to regulate which kind of disinfecting we have to use in the tunnel. So that's the stage we are. So regarding the ventilator, we have faced with a lot of challenges, but as the makers, we always have to find the solutions. So now we're on the 5th prototype of the ventilator. Everything now so far works great. Now we're waiting for the sensors to finalize the whole ventilator, which we're receiving them by next week on Wednesday. Those precision, high, accurate sensors. So from that perspective, once we're done with that, we are going to go into intensive testing with the medical personnel. So they want to ensure that our ventilator works really well. So we create different task force for, so I think my video was off a while. So we create different task force to tackle different challenges we're facing with the COVID-19. So even now I'm in the lab. That's show like we are still working on daily basis. So that's what we have been doing within this COVID-19. And we also contribute to the national education because all the schools are low. So we are collaborating with the what we call WDA, in Investment One, which is responsible for technical schools. So we are working on the curriculum to deliver the content online. So far, that's what we are providing in FAB Global. Thank you.
Thank you, Lambert, for that comprehensive introduction. Up next, we have Ngugi, Ephantus Ngugi from Gearbox. We can't hear you, Ngugi. Yes.
Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. My name is Ngugi from Gearbox, and we are a hardware innovation space where we focus on digital design and fabrication. And our experience in COVID has been quite has been quite interesting, and we've been engaged in a number of projects. And specifically in one of our institutions, which is called Gearbox Academy, we've been engaging not just innovators, but even students who have learned technologies in coming up with, COVID innovative solutions. And one of them is this, a face mask made through 3D printing. And from our research, we are able to understand the challenges that come with 3D printing and how we can even be able to mass produce masks through our technologies. The others are probably something like this. This is just a bucket that has been sliced into half and can be used as a face shield. And this is because we are trying to reduce cost as much as possible. So we're even trying to be creative in coming up with innovative solutions. Another one is an automatic soap dispensing machine, which has an ultrasonic sensor. The model just fell off. So it's meant to kind of like wave your hand, then it dispenses automatically, which was actually made by one of our students in the academy. Then, as you can see, there's another big one here. It's actually a jerrycan that has been improvised with sensors at the bottom. Then when you wave it, it dispenses water. So this is all contactless technology that we are trying to be creative and innovative and using our resources to the best we can to beat this the COVID pandemic. And one of the final projects we've been working on is this here. This is a pulse oximeter. You put your finger in, then it measures the oxygen concentration in your blood. So with that, since COVID is a respiratory disease, it reduces the oxygen concentration in your blood. So this is able to check, the oxygen concentration in blood in a cheap and affordable way. So yeah, that's pretty much what we've been doing here at Gearbox.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much, Ngugi. So I don't know if Markos has arrived. Norella, any news on that?
No.
Oh,
Unfortunately, he couldn't join. He hasn't able to join. So I think we should continue with our next part of the discussion and the session.
Do we have Martin back?
Yes, we do. Martin?
Martin, would you like
There
to
you.
finish?
Yeah, we can have some time.
Yeah, actually, I'm so sorry. Internet is like embarrassing. I was just saying that the Association of Countrywide Innovation has, in collaboration with Conda Technopolis, managed to host an innovation challenge, which was actually virtual, and we had over 300 innovators coming in, and the exercise went on very well. People came up with a lot of innovations towards COVID-19. So I think I will end there. Though, lastly, I can say Fab Lab also has been participating in other community work regarding COVID, where we go out together with other. We formed a group called Kisumu Youth Caucus, and we go out to create awareness on what needed to be done. Thank you.
Oh, Okay. Thank you. Norella, we are good to go to the next. Okay. All right. So maybe because we have a little bit of time, I wanted for our panelists to kind of expand on a few issues that I think are critical. One of the things I want us to kind of talk about is scale. How you're handling being able to produce things at scale. Um, though I know most of the countries are not dealing with like over the top cases, but what has been your thinking around that, and the thinking around cost management? We will follow the same order. We start with Martin.
Thank you. Regarding scaling, uh, it, it has been having a little challenge because as Fab Labs are created, they are basically places for doing prototype. So when it comes to mass production, then it becomes a little bit a challenge if you don't have machines which would allow you to do mass production. So, so probably other people have been able to manage scaling in terms of using maybe buying more machines or bringing more hands. And what was the next question?
And about cost management.
Yes, cost management is another challenge because as we all know that, for example, a lot of us are using the 3D printer, and when you do the cost analysis, you find out that you will probably have to make very little profit, if any, when you are doing the production, especially when you are in Kenya. Cost of production is really high because you need to import literally almost everything, raw materials and all that. So this puts you in a situation where you cannot have such a bigger margin that can help you go to sustainability. However, what we have to do is try to use other means of innovation to see the best way of using that.
Oh, okay. Interesting take. Can we have a take from Neville?
Hi. Yeah, I think from our side, when it comes to scaling up, did I hear your question correctly? You talked about scaling up, or did you talk of scaling?
Yes, scale like working with big numbers. If you needed to print out big numbers, yes.
Okay. Well, we've got 5 Fab Labs running, so basically, I think we don't really have a problem if we need to make something in large numbers. We can go to the other labs and do that. But also for young entrepreneurs that actually come out of the labs and they want to start mass producing stuff, we've got other programs that latch onto the Fab Lab program basically to help them purchase equipment and things like that. But it's another process that they follow. But yeah, we've got that there. And when it comes to your cost management, the city has decided that they wanted to empower communities. So obviously they take the cost. So our Fab Labs, we don't really charge anyone to use it. We don't charge anyone for the materials that are used. We provide everything for free. So we just keep record of what we're doing. So basically we just need to account to the municipality to say, okay, we've used so much of material and this is how much it cost us. So yeah, from a cost management perspective, we've got an allocated budget for us every year to use.
Wow, sounds like you guys have a good deal. What about Maurice? Maurice, I would like you to at least talk about beyond even Ghana, if you have any info on any other West African ecosystem player, on how you guys are managing producing whatever innovations are being made at scale in volumes, and the cost management. We can't hear you, Maurice.
Hello, how about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah, so I'm saying that with regards to what you asked about West Africa, yeah, I can say a few things about some interventions that other Fab Labs are doing. Nonetheless, in terms of cost and scaling, the only thing I can talk about is probably what is happening in Ghana, and because that's where I operate. So I'm going to start from there, and then going forward, I'll just have to address a few things in the West African region. So currently with scaling in Ghana, it depends on what products that we are, or what innovation that we are producing at the moment. Because currently the one that is really in high demand are the face shields, right? So most labs in Ghana are focused on doing that. And currently we have close to about, almost every week, about 20,000 orders coming in, 50,000 orders coming in. And like Martin said earlier on, the challenge is more or less how quick you are able to produce such things to meet your demand. We are able to produce, from my hub, we're able to produce a maximum of 1,000 a month with 3D printers. We have other partners in Accra, like I mentioned, the Ghana Tech Club, also producing huge sums of numbers. I mean, they even had the opportunity to produce a lot of that for the Israeli government to even give to frontline workers here in Ghana. The cost element is an issue everywhere. Unlike our brothers who had the fixed amount, fixed budget, we didn't really have a fixed budget. So what we are doing now is taking orders, we take down payments, we add up with our own money, and then we get the things produced, and then we give it out, depending on what we're doing. So currently, like I said, the face shields are what is in high demand, and that is asking us to really scale up, or in terms of do more of that. With regards to the hand washing machine, it's also in demand, but the time of doing that is very long. So we are not able to scale it up as much as we would like. So generally, what we are looking at is the face shields and the nose masks that we're working on to scale up. With regards to what's happening in West Africa, I know in Nigeria as well, the face shields is really working. They're also producing that in masses. I don't want to mention just one hub. There are about 2 or 3 different hubs that I know that are working on that as well. If you like, I can just share their information in the chatting session so that you can follow up with them as well. And then mainly trying to work with ventilators to help, the frontline work, people who are on the lifeline to use. One amazing story about our ecosystem here is that at some point we even had someone build a test kit from the Fab Labs themselves to sort of help test COVID-19. They made waves. I don't know whether I've heard of Incas Diagnostics, but they work within the hubs to ensure that they can produce test kits for the COVID-19 challenge. They even award from the Oloo Foundation. So you can just Google them as well, and they are within our ecosystem as well. So we are trying to do something about it, but in terms of scaling, it is more than a problem, because the demand is there, but the machinery, you don't have enough machines to be able to do that. But like I said, on a larger scale, we're able to do at least 1,000, at most 1,000 a month to meet the demand. So I don't know if you have any other questions, but currently, that's what I have to say in that regard.
Okay, thank you, Maurice. Would like to hear from you, Maurice.
Okay. Thank you, Buck. Regarding to the question about how we're dealing with the scaling. So far, we have the task force. Once we started working on the face shield, we had the first batch of the order we received was 6,000. So we had the 6,000 face shield at the same time. So in the lab, we call every member around, the few of them which are nearby the lab, and we organize the task force for that. So from that perspective, we don't see any issue for us in terms of scalability once we get a lot of demand. Because even so far, we have around 10,000 face shields in the store, just waiting for anyone who needs them. So we try to prepare ourselves in advance according to how the market is. Secondly, regarding to the other machines like ventilator and the sanitizing panel, on the ventilator, that's where the issue can come if we go a high demand, because the sensors, those high precision sensors, we need to import them from China, so it takes a week. But for the other tools, for sanitizing panel, everything's local, and we have the corner for every single supply around. So don't have any issue with the scalability. So regarding the cost management, I can say as a Fab Lab, especially specific Fab Lab Rwanda, that's where we do make money. so we don't land on the government funds. So we need to find a way to sustain ourselves and sustain our activities we are doing. So on that perspective, once we look on that, we see we're always ready to deal with any challenge we can come on. So we already have like specific measures in place that we use run the lab, and that was also the measures we use once we're doing this first shot within this past 2 months. So I can say on our side, everything's really in place, and the good things for us, everyone knows what he's doing and what she's doing. So because like it's for all genders. So we do the things, we do our tasks and we do our jobs as we are passionate for that. So and also we do the volunteering activities. So for us, I can say everything really rise in place as we move from one stage to another. And always we are ready to know like for the next time there's another challenge is coming. So we need to be sure prepared for what kind of the cost that new challenge can cost us. And also a part of that, we have the other people around. We have like government institutions around. We have non-government institutions around. In case we are in short of money, we have a way to talk to them so they can provide some. But by now, that case that hasn't happened for a while. So that's why we say for us, regarding the cost management, everything's very fine. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Rulindana. Let's carry on to Ephantus. That's a very long name. Ngugi.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Yes.
So I'm guessing the first question was on how. Okay, I might have lost track of the questions.
Okay, let me remind you. We're talking about how you're managing cost. Like you, of course, I think you're the one who kind of talked about using the buckets as a shield, and then also how you're looking at scale. If you needed, if the demanded like thousands of pieces of your innovations, how are you thinking around that?
Okay, so when it comes to costs, I'll talk about this face mask. So we realize that when it comes to 3D printing, it's a slow process, and we would not be able to, churn out, let's say, a lot of masks in scale. In mass, we couldn't mass produce a lot of masks because it's slow unless we have a fleet of 3D printers, and that means, and even buying the filaments would actually be also be expensive. So in terms of the mask, we went for a process called thermoforming, and thermoforming is much faster. You just buy a sheet of plastic, and all you need to do is just have it pressed down, and you're able to produce mask in scale. So it's just a matter of comparing which technology is more efficient. So 3D printing, yes, it's good, but even when you put it on your face, there's still extra attachments you need to put in. So there's a lot of cost implication. We realize that it's not that effective. But if you look at something like the plastic one, you have these kinds of buckets all over. You can go to any supermarket and just get it. So in the event that we are out of resources nationwide, this is something anyone can actually make. You just pick a bucket, slice it into two, then just put it up. But it doesn't look good, yes, but it does the job. So it's just one of the ways we think about working at the cost. So the other project when it comes to now the pulse oximeter, since the lockdown, many of these sensors, we have to import them. So you find that the lockdown makes things much more expensive. So in terms of mass producing all the pulse oximeters, we'd need to import many of these sensors. So how do we mitigate cost? We now think of how we can actually make our own sensors in-house locally. And but now there's now an aspect of making it as accurate as possible, and even going through the government regulations such as the Poison and Pharmacy Board. So these are some of the loopholes and challenges that even make things more expensive in terms of cost, and even make it difficult to scale. So, and when it comes to now technologies like this would be a little bit simpler to scale because all you need is just this bucket. It's very common in Kenya, and it's used. It's almost common in most households, if not 60% of households. So it's just a matter of getting these sensors and actuators, and this would be much easier to scale if we're going the production way. So it's all a matter of just how we package our products. And if I may add, we are more of a prototyping and innovation space. So I'd say it's more a matter of research. We're coming up. We are looking at it mostly from an aspect of research, but definitely once we perfect our prototypes, now we look at how we can scale. I hope I've answered the questions to the best of my ability.
Yes, Ngugi, thank you. Okay, Markos is still not there. To go to the second, most important, I think is still Ngugi who has kind of brought it up, and it's something that I thought we should all discuss and compare notes. There's something to do with standardization, dealing with different standards in terms of whatever you're building, especially because what we are building is kind of, some of them are medical grade. So maybe now I would call out to the panelists to talk about what standards they're using, how they're tackling that, which bodies they're working with, and how that process is going in terms of time and efficiency. So we'll go back to Martin.
Thank you. Regarding standardization, I will talk about face shield. We created a group for 3D printing. So we have a 3D printing community in Kenya, which I think is also a representative from Gearbox. Actually, the director of Gearbox is also part of it. So the group decided to work with the KEBS, and we built common design and took to KEBS, that is Kenya Bureau of Standards, and it took a long time. I think it was approved 1 week ago. That is when we got approval. So currently we can pick the same model and use it to print it out, just because it has been approved by KEBS. Because initially they never existed. KEBS did not have anything existing like that. So it's just new to them. So they had to go through the process of that. For the automatic tab, we are yet to take it so that it can be approved. But coming to the M-Safari, the contact tracing application, I think it went through a lot of process, discussing it with different government entities, and even up to now, as much as right now the NTSA, the National Transport Authority, has announced that they want the same application, but up to now it is yet to be approved. But we have tested it in the field, and we've worked with different governmental departments, which have given us a lot of inputs on how best it can be done. Thanks.
Well answered, Martin. Thank you. May we hear from Neville?
Hi. Yeah, I think for us, basically, as I said, we're only making the face shields. There's no real standards for it, but I think in Africa, I think most of the countries had a problem when the outbreak started, that it was very difficult to get PPE. And from our side, PPE face shields is just an added protection that you can use. It was not actually part of the PPE. So we didn't set any standards or anything for it, but we just manufactured them at home using the 3D printers from all the labs. And but as I said, it came to a point where we had to stop producing them because it became cheaper to actually procure them from big manufacturers. I don't know if I've answered that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Oh, okay. Thank you, Neville. Let's hear from Maurice. Just to
Yeah,
refresh your memory, it's we're talking about standardizations, how you're handling standards within your ecosystem in terms of production.
yeah. I mean, just to pick back on what the previous speaker just mentioned. When the outbreak came out, we didn't really have any standards, to use. But currently, I think, as a matter of fact, the government agencies are putting together measures to make sure that whatever people are producing meets a particular kind of standard. So we currently are working with our country's standards authority, which is the Ghana Standards Authority, to ensure that whatever that we are putting out there has, the backing of the government agencies to do that. So, like I said, what we are really producing in the masters is the face shield, and I think for that one, there's a generic standard that everyone is using. We use 3D printers and you know plastic frames, and then we have an elastic band behind it that we use to make sure that we print those things for mass use. So with that, I mean, based on the demand that is coming in, we realize that the standards that we started to begin with has been sort of like taken into account, and so we can be able to produce the mass of that. And in regards to other ecosystems, like within our ecosystem, it is very imperative that standards are met when they need to be met, because we are trying to solve a problem. You don't want to put yourself in a position where, in you trying to solve a problem, you actually create the problem, right? So I think in our part of the world, or in our part of the continent, it is something that the government has taken up, that we, the Fab Labs around across the country, are trying to use to ensure that, yes, we are meeting the standards. Is some of them too, we don't really have standard, like the automatic hand washing machine. You don't know what standards to use, so that one, you're just relying on your innovative thinking and the fact that it can solve a problem without necessarily creating it to solve to mitigate the issue at hand. So for the buckets or the automated hand washing machine that we are creating, like the Gearbox guy mentioned, as of now, you don't really have the standard within our ecosystem to use to judge. But about the standard you have is how convenient it is, and how it solves your problem, and how easy it is to use, basically. So that's the kind of standard that we are currently using, not necessarily that we are comparing ourselves to any other people or any other Fab Lab that is doing something like of a higher level, because we don't have that comparison analysis here in our part of the ecosystem. So yeah, that's what I have to say for that. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, thank you, Maurice. I would like to hear from Lambert. I think this you guys are doing, considering you're building a ventilator.
Okay, so there's a lot of challenges, of course, we are facing with, but what I want to highlight regarding to the face shield you was saying, or what depending on what other people are working on the face mask. So like for us, this is scrap. It's not like the one, like it has some issues, so it's not the one you are selling, but all of them are also the same. So for what for us, we decide to go far besides the 3D printing, because the 3D printing takes a lot of time. It's really not economical friendly. So for us, we went to using razor cutting machine and the CNC router. So that's the approach for us we took. So then after cutting everything, that's where we go for disinfecting and health maintenances. So regarding to the standardization over the country, like for the face shield, we spent around 3 weeks just to try to get the approval from the FDA. Luckily, we get it. So we have done like 5 prototypes for the face shield until we get the final approval for that. So for the ventilator, we work closely with the healthcare providers. So they're the one giving us like this the guideline need to provide. Even one FDA, which is in charge of providing those regulations. They publish all the regulations regarding the ventilators and also the other products some of them we are creating. So we take on those regulations, we put them in place, we try to follow them. That's we can say we have the community issues are all active. So we create something we give to them. they revise and they say no, this product doesn't really meet these criteria. We come back, we do what we have created, what depends on what they said, and also we go back again until we finally get the approval process. So I can say for us, not like really a challenge. Of course, we do get the challenge because for like on the disinfecting tunnel now it has been 2 months without getting any confirmation or without getting any feedback.
Hello? Hello, Lambert, are you still there? Oh, okay. I think he has fallen out. Let's hear from Ngugi. Still on standards, how you're tackling them. You're on mute.
Okay, so sorry, I keep muting every single time. So when it comes to standards, when it comes to the face masks, we looked at a number of prototypes. So like the standard mask, the N95, there's this extremely big one. And we had a discussion with medical practitioners from, it's a hospital called Mata Hospital, a local hospital here. And they gave us some advice. For example, if you put this one is, it's heavy. So if you're a medical practitioner and you wear this for the entire day, it's going to wear you down. So we're looking even at weight, the ease of breathability. There's the N95s, but they are kind of pricey. So that's one of the first approach. The second is when it comes to this, we use open source designs. So not really much of standards to look into there. But no, when it comes to the pulse oximeter, the medical device, now for you to license a medical device, it has to go through some government regulations. And the body specifically, it's called Poisons and Pharmacy Board, which is quite a long process and it's quite a challenging one. But hopefully, we're hopeful that we can be able to get through it, and we've tried to make our device very affordable. It's actually almost 10 times cheaper than the imported pulse oximeters. So that's now when it comes to standards. This is the oximeter is where we've actually had one of the biggest challenges because we have to go through the government regulations. But we didn't really focus too much on the masks because it's an open source design, and as long as it exists, there are no government regulations or standards when it comes to masks themselves because COVID pandemic hit very recently. So I doubt the government had enough time to actually draft something regulations on masks. But the medical devices, they've been in the industry for quite a while. So that means we have to meet the standards that they're coming in. We have to meet the accuracy, if not beat the accuracy of the medical devices that are currently in our country. Yeah, so that's as much as I can say when it comes to standards.
Okay, thank you for that. Question for Norella. I see a clock timing down. Is that
No, you still, yeah, we still have 10 more minutes to go with the topics. Then we will open up to Q&A from our YouTube audience. If there are no questions, we can continue with our topics.
Okay, because I had two more kind of categories of discussion. So maybe we can try and work within the time frame. So the next one was on what are the collaborations that have been helpful during this period. I know some of you have mentioned, like Fab Lab Winam have talked about the network they created in Kisumu, but we'd like to really dive into all your collaborations and how they've been helpful in actualizing the solutions that you're offering for COVID situation. Let's have it from Martin. Martin, are you there?
Thank you. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. It's, yeah.
All right, thank you. Now, we've had a number of collaborations. Actually, even Neville can tell you that just at the beginning, he reached out, he asked me what kind of design you have, and then I sent him the design. So we've been having collaborations both diagonally and vertically. And we have had other collaborations with the government in terms of helping us to put in more ideas into what we are working on. Just like we also have said that they have worked with hospitals and all that. So as FAB Lab, we worked closely with the government of Kisumu, county government of Kisumu. We've also worked closely with the things their kind of work, and generally collaborating with the community, because whenever we build something, we take it to the community and they criticize it and develop it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Martin. Neville, you're up next.
Yeah, I think from our side, yeah, we have been speaking to some other labs. Initially, I got some designs for the face shields from some labs on the European Fab labs. And then we realized those ones are a bit problematic. They actually, when you put an elastic at the back, it actually makes your head to pain. Then I spoke to Martin, and Martin helped me. He gave me one of his designs that he had, which actually is very, very practical, because you actually don't even need an elastic. You just put it on your head and it holds quite well, and it doesn't give you a headache. So yeah, we've been using that. It's much more quicker to print rather than the previous one I had. So yeah, I've been using that and printing, and that's how we've been. And I've been liaising with Martin as well.
Ah, amazing. I'm loving the collaboration between you two. Maurice?
Yeah, hello. Sorry, I was on mute. You can hear me, right?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah, great. So with regards to partnerships, I did mention early on that we are working with a partner hub called the Ghana Tech Lab to produce the face shields in masses. Like I said, now the orders that are coming in are massive. We are currently in our country in an election year, so the need for the face shields are immense, are enormous. So we have partnered with the Ghana Tech Lab to produce more of that. As well, we have some developmental partners like SNV and GIZ who have come in since COVID-19 to help us innovate solutions to solve the problem that we're facing in our own small way. So with SNV, what we've done is that we have outlined about 5 different entrepreneurs that are working within the maker space, or people who are working to build prototypes for solving problems, and they are funded by SNV for them to go through our program to help them to scale up, build their prototypes, and then try and scale up during the COVID-19. GIZ together as well is partnering with us with and then GTL as well to launch what we call the Makers Assemble. So it's like a Fab community, Fab Lab community for young entrepreneurs or young people who are home, who are willing to produce or build innovative ideas for COVID-19. So currently that program is in session, beginning this very Friday with the boot camp, and then after the boot camp they will then begin to work on ideas. That is word of what the hub itself is doing to try and solve the COVID-19 challenge. So we are working with our development partners to try and mitigate this issue in terms of the partnerships. As well, we have this network of what we call the African Makerspace Network that we interact. I'm sure some of the panelists are part of it. We formed in Ghana, and we have quite a number of makerspaces across the continent being a part of. And from time to time, we also interact within the ecosystem to see what kind of partnerships we can do to mitigate this. So we share ideas, we share knowledge, we share information from various hubs to ensure that whatever we need to do, we are doing. So currently, that's the kind of partnerships that we're working on in our ecosystem here in Ghana. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. So we wind it up with Lambert and then Ngugi. Lambert, you're up next. Is Lambert around? Okay, let's have Ngugi first then. Unmute, please.
Yeah, sorry. I keep messing up with that. When it comes to collaboration, we have involved our students mostly because we have an academy, and in the academy we focus on teaching our students hands-on practical skills. So we've been giving them, challenging them to come up with solutions, and this is one of them. Which I had mentioned, the automatic sanitizer. So we've been engaging mostly our community to come up with such innovations. So we haven't really gone that much outside our community because we have quite a huge base. But in addition, we've been collaborating, rather engaging with the um, Center for Bits and Atoms in MIT, and we've been having sessions just talking and sharing our experiences as well. So it's mostly engaging our students and people in our community. So we challenge each other to come up with solutions and just sharing our experience. Maybe I can mention two other projects that are underway, and it's a ventilator from another person in the community and an oxygen concentrator, which are medical equipment. And we sit down together, we share notes, we try to see how we can actually even share resources. So yeah, that's as much as our collaborations go.
Thank you, Ngugi. I'm aware that we are out of time now, Norella. We may go to Q&A before revisiting the last question.
Yeah, we have a question from our YouTube audience so far. If you have any questions, just post them there. But here we have a question on how, is there anything I can do on the Fab Lab network for African kids? Like people are interested in how to collaborate with like the kid networks that you have there. Martin, I think Martin was mentioning him before. I don't know if you want to answer the question or if anyone else wants to be part of that question as well.
Yeah, maybe we have Martin or...
Yes, thank you. Actually, we are looking for collaborators in PubKits. Currently, the global PubKits activity, which we've been doing, is we are doing it under PubLat Kits, which was created in Latin America. And I have been, PubLab has been the main partner and hosting it in Africa. But right now, we are looking forward on expanding it in Africa and making sure that we have an African network. And that also was one of our last discussions on how best we can build an African network. So the person who has questioned that can contact me and we can work on collaboration.
Yes, we will pass on that information. Yes, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think when I was mentioning, I didn't really mention the kids aspect. So we have this program we call the Kids Makers that is internally funded by Commerce Hive. What we do is that, so for the Kids Makers, it's like the word says, Kids Makers. So empowering kids to be able to make, products or build their own innovations and stuff. And this COVID-19 season has been geared towards, equipping them with skill set. And since kids are no longer allowed in school, we're no longer allowed in school, what we did was that we did a community approach based with the local government. So what we did is we just liaised with an assembly man, or we call it here locally in Ghana, that an assemblyman who put together about 30 children. We booked them 15 each every week to equip them with digital skills. So more or less of fabrication as well, and electronics and all those basic things that we teach in the Fab Lab mainly. So currently that is running. It has been running since, just like Martin said, if this particular person is interested, we are more than willing. If you want to see what we've done, you can go on our website or go on our Facebook platform and just check Kids Makers. You see what we've been doing with the young people in Ghana in terms of what we are doing with Fab Lab related activities. So just type Kids Makers in our Facebook page or on our website, and obviously you see exactly what we've done, especially during this COVID-19 season. Thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. I think that's the questions that we have for now. I think we can continue with the last topic before we finish our session. Felicity?
Okay, thank you, Norella. So so the last question I had was about future plans. Are there any future plans that you have, or like a call to action that you have to the network members that you'd like to articulate in this moment? We'll go back to the same sequence. We start with Martin.
Thank you. I think one of the major things coming up is the African network need to grow stronger so that we can really work as a unit. We have a lot of Fab Labs out there, but we are still not coming up strongly as a unit. So I think part of it has been done by AfriLabs. I appreciate them for that. But we need to come up strongly and work together. And this can also increase our bargaining power and can help us get other networks with other development partners. Apart from that, I will just ask if there are any other development partners or individuals willing to work with us. We are more than willing to do that. As Fab Lab winner, based away from the capital city, you know, whenever people grow, they think that the capital city is where all the technology is, and everyone is moving towards that place and leaving any activities away from the city. So I would also urge other people that we also have other hubs and labs working away from the city. So let's see how best we can work with all of them because we need development going together. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Let's carry on to Neville.
I think from our side, yes, we've been trying to set up a network in South Africa to try and get all the mega spaces and the Fab Lab, because there are a few other Fab Labs in South Africa and it seems like everybody is working in isolation. And I think going forward, we want to try and bring them all together. But I think all this can only be done at a later stage. For now, I think our country, the infection rates are so high that I don't think any of the labs or any of the maker spaces are actually open at the moment. So post this pandemic, maybe we would try to look at how we can set up a network and move ahead with it.
Oh, thank you for that insight, Neville. Maurice?
Yeah, yeah, we also going forward, already AfriLabs has reached out to us. We are working with AfriLabs to see what we can do in terms of distributing PPEs currently. So today we are on a call with them actually to finalize a few things on how the project is going to look like. We're also looking at working with other development partners. As I mentioned, I did mention SNV, I did mention GIZ. We are still open for more. One thing that really sticks with me when it comes to some of these things is one thing that is on YouTube said, if I've seen far is standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Where we are now, I mean, like we said, so many Fab Labs are doing so many things in their little, their little corner. Collaboration is needed. Nonetheless, we need people who would front this, because what I have noticed in this season is that this thing actually gives us an opportunity for us to industrialize Africa, right? If the funding is there, if the support is there, if the infrastructure that is needed to get these things that are there, obviously we'll be looking at taking things from elsewhere, right? Because I feel like at this point, going forward, that's what we need to do. So in our various countries, I'm looking at how Fab Labs can work in tandem with corporate Ghana, their corporate bodies over there, to see what they can do together to solve and mitigate this problem. Because there are a lot of CSR programs that the corporate world is willing to do. How does the Fab Labs across the continent position themselves in the place where they can work with the corporate bodies to ensure that they are doing this on a larger scale and not just doing within their own small corner? So for me, yes, on our own, we are trying to do this, but we're also reaching out to corporate Ghana to see how best we can work together to meet their CSR needs and also get to improve upon what the Fab Labs are doing in our part of the world. So it's a thing I want to throw out to all the Fab Labs across the continent. Thank you.
Wow, amazing. So to wind up, I think Lambert is out. So we'll have Ngugi.
Okay. So future plans. The first I'd say is to make our own boards, custom boards, and also make our own sensors. And because we tend to buy and we tend to import most of these things, like our sensors and even control boards. Like we import the Raspberry Pis and the Arduinos. So we want to be able to build our own custom PCBs that we can actually even sell around. And there's even one from Africa's Talking, which is actually a custom board made by Kenyans. So even looking forward to use something like this, locally made PCBs for our products, locally made electronics, and even support the other community members who are doing the same. Um, Second, we want to make our own machines because something like a 3D printer, we don't want to have to keep buying them, and even thermoformers. We understand the technology now, and we strongly believe in our capacity to build our own machines. Third of all, we want to get closer to the government. We want them to hear us out. We want them to actually appreciate our local products and not always have to import all these things, especially medical devices, because we spend up to we actually import if 95% of all medical equipment. There's very few medical equipment that is actually made locally. Then finally, we want to spread the exposure of technology, and that is spread the word on Industry 4 technologies, train as much as possible, and even just make people understand that these technologies are available and even they can innovate and actually come up with such solutions. Because not so many people know how to make such PCBs. Where is it again? Not so many people know how to make such things, but with a little bit of effort and time and even will, they come to realize that they can actually make something like this. So we want to be able to teach and um, just spread the word on technology and teach as much as possible. Yeah.
Interesting. As you can see, Norella, there's a lot of fire in this network. So I don't know if there's any more questions.
No, there's not any more questions, but I don't know. I see a lot of potential going on in like organizational wise on the African network as a whole. Have you been all in contact? I know that Neville and Martin have been. I don't know if Maurice, I think with Martin as well. I don't know if all of you, but is how have you like involve your local communities in order to actually like build for them and help them supply whatever things they whatever response are you able to provide to them? I don't know how that has gone in your local scenarios. I don't know, whoever wants to answer it, you're welcome.
I think I can go first. So in engagement of our local community, first of all, as a makerspace and a training institution, the lockdown has closed down our school. So we are trying to teach as much as possible in using online platforms. We are currently in the process of deploying one so that it can actually reach people and even students who are not able to train right now. And third, it's suppliers of electronics and components in a way that they help us deliver some of these components and electronics to people who are locked down in other faraway areas. So we work with them in terms of delivery, purchasing, delivering of these components. That way, even if you're in an area that you're not able to access such things, we're still able to get these items to you, and you're able to come onto our platform and learn how to use these devices. Yeah, at least for now, that's what I can say.
Can I say something as well? Hello.
Sure, go.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to take it from the very first statement that you made, whether or not we are in contact as a network. And like you said, individually, some of us may have interacted. I actually have met Martin before, but I'm not sure he remembers me. I think it was at an AfroLabs program, either AfriLabs or the German African Business Summit that was held in Ghana and in 2019, early 2019. So I know a bit of what Martin does. But I think that's one of the issues that we also face on the continent, because yes, there's so much that like individual labs are doing, but we don't have a collective front where we are reaching out amongst ourselves to do that. But like I said, with regard to maker spaces as well, we have taken the step to try and see how we can work with other maker spaces across West Africa and Africa as well. So I mentioned the African Makerspace Network, and that is similar to what the Fab Lab networks are doing. And then so it's more or less like, how do we collaborate on a larger scale? How do we engage the needed government agencies? How do we engage the needed corporate bodies to ensure that we are getting the needed support to do what we're supposed to do in solving the problems or in industrializing Africa? In terms of what we are doing for our local community, I think outside of what as a hub we are just doing, the producing of the PPEs, the face shields, and the hand washing machines. One thing that is most important for us is the capacity building for our young people in our local communities. So I didn't mention what Kids Makers is doing. I also mentioned what the Makers Assemble is doing. So the Makers Assemble is targeting any person within the local community, within the Ghanaian ecosystem, who is passionate about producing stuff, who is passionate about innovating things, but doesn't necessarily have the tools or have the space to be able to do that. So the Makers Assemble is serving as a platform. We've launched flyers, and it's all for free. It's actually all for free. If we've launched flyers, we've launched a program, and people are applying for it to make sure that they can be in the space where, yes, they are engineers at heart, but they can also put it together to try and solve the COVID-19 challenge. They're going to get access to mentors within our Fab Lab and then within and with our network as well. So we have other people who are seasoned engineers, who are seasoned, artisans that are not necessarily working with their Fab Lab, that we are tapping into them to mentor these young ones that are coming in to build their prototypes at our hub. So I mean, on a community level, that's what we're doing. But I'm literally calling out for partnerships and to talk amongst us across regions. We have people in Eastern Africa. We are in Western Africa. How often do we talk amongst ourselves to ensure that these things are done? I think AfriLabs is doing a good job in putting us together, but on our own, we can do something around that to ensure that we solve the problem. Thank you very much.
Can I come? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Maurice, for remembering that. Actually, even a time I wrote to Maurice asking for more information of what some of the activities they do. And with Gearbox, that is where I got trained for FAB Academy. I in 2016 at Gearbox, so that is my home before I built my own home. So basically, all the panelists, I have always talked to them. I was in Rwanda last year, and I visited Rwanda, so I have collaborated with everyone. Now, as we found ourselves in a space where we are the makers and we have other hubs around. So we decided to get into hubs, and right now we are closely working with other hubs around, and that is how we found ourselves, even with AfriLabs and others. Back in the community, like we said, we do the Fab Kids activities. We also collaborate in the Fab Labs, and also we work with the community in building various items. So because who are our clients? Our clients are the community members. The innovators who are coming in are the community members. So we are here for the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Martin. Neville, do you want to say something, or are you okay? Or go ahead. I think, yeah, you can go.
Yeah, just a shout out to hi Martin. We've met before. I remember seeing you around, and you are the first person to graduate from FAB Academy. Congratulations, that's good. Felicity, I've also worked with her. She's also graduated from FAB Academy. So these are some really, really good people in our community. So I'm looking forward to even engage with the rest of you more.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think it's been a wonderful experience throughout, like your local situation, how you have attacked the situation and tried to solve local problems. What of you, ones of you have like had like the facilities to do it, other ones had to create a little bit more of engagement in order to actually respond in the correct way. I think there's a lot of innovation in the African network, a lot of ways in which you have been helping the community uh, in terms of actually responding. And I know that the African, at least the current situation is that now is it's a time where they are hitting the most. So I think it's something that we need to think ahead, try to see a couple of examples and see how we can target that in the correct way or the best way possible. I don't know if you have any final thoughts, any final comments or suggestions before we finalize our session.
Maybe I just missed something. I needed
Martin,
to
go
tell
ahead. Martin, go
the
ahead.
meeting that, thank you. I need to tell the meeting that Fab Lab will be in collaboration with two other hubs in Kisumu, that is Beka and Winam Capital. We have been doing the annual innovation week, and we did one successfully last year, and this year we are doing one, and Sherry, the Fab president, will be one of our speakers. So don't miss it, it will be in November.
Yeah, Martin, thank you. Can I go?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what I want to say is it's been great. It's been great to be on this platform to interact with you all. Thank you, Felicity. I don't know which of you reached out to me actually, but thank you, Felicity, if you were the one. Thank you, Norella, as well. What I want to say at the end is that for me, again, there's this African adage that if you take one broomstick and you can easily break it, but when we are collective, you're not able to, when they're together, you can't break it. I don't know how to really put it well in English. I can say it very well in my own language, but in English, I'm struggling to put it together. But ideally, you get what I'm trying to say. Like together, it's very difficult to break us apart. But if you're individual, someone can easily break you. Why am I saying this? I mean, it's high time to define exactly what Fab Labs can do going forward. It shouldn't just be about solving local problems and trying to, mitigate situations that are on a smaller scale. How best can Fab Labs, industrialize Africa? And for me, that's my main goal as someone who runs a Fab Lab or someone who runs a makerspace. Is that how best do you liaise with the people who need to listen to you to help you come up with the innovations you're doing on a larger scale to industrialize Africa? I think it's high time that we move away from solving small problems into how our small solutions can improve industry on the scale of industry, how they can improve how they do their things or how they come out with results. How do we produce some of these things in local areas that don't have the opportunity to get access to what we have? And we can't do it alone, and that's what I'm saying. So usually you find that when someone in East Africa is doing something and someone in West Africa is doing something, I mean, collectively, the thing that we are trying to push together is on a larger scale as compared to what we're doing locally, right? So I think that's something we need to be talking about, and that's something we need to be looking towards and looking forward to ensure that we solve that particular problem. Because if it's just about solving local problems, I think we are doing well. But at what points do we get to where we say we are industrializing Africa? That is what my core purpose, and that's what I want to leave us with to think about. How do we move from our communities to get into a place where we are industrializing Africa? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those inspiring words. I think it's something to think forward, not only for the African network, but also for the rest of the networks worldwide. I don't know if anyone has anything else to say. if not, thank you so much for joining this session. I think it was an incredible session, a different session where we went like around different scenarios, different situations, and try to compare and see where like the merging points connect. So thank you so much, Felicity, for putting this panel together. We're so sorry for the people that couldn't like join or that we lost connection, but thank you so much for trying. Thank you so much for our audience on YouTube for watching this session, and hope we had some input for you to understand how these situations globally affect local people. And I think, you can join us for our next session next Thursday at the same time with the Asia Network. So thank you so much all for joining, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you.